speaking of Sylvester Stallone, Matt, and speaking of not disappointing, well, he's back with Samaritan.
He is. Good old Sylvester Stallone is back in the dark superhero movie Samaritan, a movie about a hero who's been missing for 25 years. Ryan and I grabbed our magic hammers to see if this one should have stayed missing or if this hero is ready for another swing.
Wait up.
What are you doing with all this junk?
Keeps me busy.
Another long night of crime and violence.
Some say it's only a matter of time before the city implodes.
At 76 years old, I have to say that Stallone still looks good. I mean, his visage is as grotesque as it has ever been, but he still holds up as an action hero. Though the edges are a bit frayed, yeah, sure, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Samaritan is not what I would consider a good movie, but it got into that rare place for me, that so bad it's good place. And I'm here to tell you that Samaritan is like the Room of superhero movies. Oh, hi, Mark. The movie opens up with an animated exposition dump that gives the entire plot in a nutshell. Two super kids are trapped in an arson by frightened citizens of the fictional Granite City. The fire kills the super kids' parents, but they survive. One becomes a hero and protects the citizens in spite of their act, and the other becomes a villain named Nemesis, bent on revenge. The siblings have a final confrontation that results in a massive explosion, killing them both. But some believe that the good twin, Samaritan, survived. Flash forward to today, Granite City is a crime-ridden dump, and a little boy named Sam is searching for Samaritan, who he believes can save them all. He begins to suspect his neighbor Joe, a garbage man who has displayed some feats of strength, and who's also played by Sylvester Stallone, so, you know, it has to be him, right? Samaritan does world building quite well. In fact, the art direction on this movie is top-notch. Granite City feels slimy, worn, and grounded in a near dystopian reality. I loved the look of this movie. When no CGI is being used, it looks fantastic. The graffiti, the urban decay, some of the best I've seen in a while. Kudos to the production designer and the location scouts. Another big positive for Samaritan is the tone. The movie has an early 90s feel to it. Think RoboCop 2 or The Crow, and even a dash of They Live. Can be smelled in the mix. I love this out of time and place setting and world, but the rest of the movie is a total train wreck, Ryan. While I did have fun with many of the characters, they are completely one-dimensional and underexplored and motivationless. Stallone and Javon Walton, who plays Sam, have almost no actual chemistry that helps me believe their bizarre friendship. Sam's mom is written so poorly that I'm positive the actress who played her will try to expunge her IMDb page at some point. And while I love the attitude and the look of the bad guy Cyrus and his gang, exactly what they wanted to do and why is a total conundrum. The special effects are fine when punches and bullets fly, but as soon as anything super heroic is on screen, we are treated to some of the worst CGI this side of a 90s TV show, culminating in some of the worst de-aging effects I have ever seen outside of a video game. Still, I had fun with Samaritan. It has a satisfyingly predictable twist that I found just interesting enough, and its throwback setting and feel kept me on board through the runtime. It became so enjoyably bad that I was sad when it was over. If this had been bumped up to an R rating, I might even be convinced to call it a cult movie in the making. As it stands, I'd call it a guilty pleasure that made me want to rewatch RoboCop 2.
RoboCop 2, huh?
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, it's not all that original of a film, let's be honest. And it's funny, I was excited, believe it or not, Matt, to see Sylvester Stallone in a starring role.
Yeah, why not?
Outside of the Creed movies, looking at his filmography, the last movie I watched that had Stallone in the lead was 2008's Rambo, which was the fourth Rambo in the series.
Yeah, that's a total dud. What about the Expendables? Those are pretty decent.
Haven't seen them. So it's been a long time since I watched Stallone in a starring role in a film. And I tell you what, 10 minutes into Samaritan, I was questioning myself why I was excited to begin with. It's like, yeah, Stallone's not all that great. What am I that excited for here? Here's where I want to mention something, talking about unoriginal. as I'm watching this movie, a scene comes on and I'm like, oh my God, you know what we're watching is an updated version of the Karate Kid. Sylvester Stallone is Mr. Miyagi, and he befriends a kid just like Daniel's son. And in fact, there is a scene in this that is almost shot for shot of a ripoff from the Karate Kid. And it is when Sam, the kid, is being chased by the bully kids. And he actually goes through a fence. The bullies hop the fence, just like the Cobra Kai did in Karate Kid. And they start chasing this kid down. And then they circle him around and they start beating him up, just like Johnny Lawrence did to Daniel LaRusso, right?
Could it
and then
be?
Who comes instead of Mr. Miyagi? Here comes Samaritan. And
Sure.
It has that same moment where it's strange to see an old man beating up kids, right? When, Mr. Miyagi was fighting teenagers. It's very strange. And here you have a 70-year-old Sylvester Stallone.
76, I looked it up.
76.
Yeah.
76-year-old man fighting teenagers.
Well,
it's just a bizarre thing to watch.
Two things. It's not as bad as what Clint Eastwood did with that chicken movie. Macho. What was it called?
Yeah.
Cry Macho.
Cry
Macho. Woof. He's like 96 fighting teenagers. The other thing is, I think you're just a Karate Kid hammer looking for a Miyagi nail. Really, you're finding connections where they don't really exist. Are those two scenes similar? I suppose so.
This was a big Karate Kid nail. I'm telling you.
Sure, but how many times has a character been chased by bullies and there happens to be a chain link fence?
True. But you got the old guy befriending the kid. He's also teaches him to fight. It doesn't go as far as like waxing his cars, but he brings him up onto the rooftop and shows him how to fight, very much like Miyagi did with Danielson,
Hey,
I could see it a little bit. I guess I was thinking that while I was watching it.
Well, that's a compliment from you, because I know that's one of your favorite movies.
It is. So here's a plot line or gimmick in the movie that I wasn't sure it was developed enough for me. And listening to your review, maybe you can explain it a little bit better. But because you touched on how they were trapped in this fiery, how'd you describe it?
The Inferno?
The Inferno.
The two superhero kids?
Yeah, the two superheroes.
When it was an arson. The townsfolk set their home on fire.
So what happens is later on in the film, Sylvester Stallone, whenever he uses his powers as Samaritan, gets overheated. His body gets too hot. And I thought it had something to do with this tie-in of the whole fire, but it was so underdeveloped. I don't know exactly. I didn't understand it myself. So do you have anything that you can fill me in on? I thought that was sort of presented, but not explained fully.
I think it's left purposely vague. The hero needs to have some kind of weakness, and that's what they set up as his weakness. If he uses his healing power too much too quickly and doesn't have a way to cool himself off, his heart can explode. So of course that's going to come back at a dramatic moment when, you don't think he can possibly go any further without exploding, and then, he finds it within himself to pull together,
That makes sense. The other point that I had written down to bring up, you touched on in your review, was the lack of chemistry between the kid and Sylvester Stallone. And that's where I think this movie could have succeeded if that chemistry would have been there. You're right. It's completely lacking. We saw it earlier in the Adam Project. It was reminded me of good chemistry where you had the kid and Ryan Reynolds really playing off each other rather well. And they needed to in that movie for it to succeed. It needed to happen here to make this, I think, much more enjoyable of a film. And it just wasn't there.
No, I agree. The whole character of Sam, this movie could have been a lot better without him. Think about it. Like the whole subplot with him and his mom, if you cut that out and it's just about Samaritan and the gangs and how Stallone's character comes back to where he was, much smoother, much better of a movie.
I agree. For a movie watching on Amazon Prime, slight recommend maybe, but
yeah,
it's right in that range. It's not like, hey, everybody's got to stop and see Samaritan.
No, and just be prepared for something that's kind of dumb, but kind of fun, regardless of how dumb it is. In fact, maybe because of how dumb it is, and it's done well. It's done well.
I agree. Was there a jaw-dropping moment or a highlight in this movie that you want to mention?
The Inferno scene, just how much our suspension of disbelief gets stretched. There's a because it all comes back to another Inferno, of course, toward the end. And the special effects are gratuitous, I'm just going to say. And how long we're expected to believe that everybody's just hanging out inside this collapsing Inferno and everything's fine and they're not even hot. I don't know.
Great use of CGI fire. This year,
it looked okay.
This year's been the year of CGI fire. I don't know how okay it worked. I think because you're right, everybody could hang out there. It made us realize, yes, this fire is very fake because nobody could be around that much flame.
Yeah.
For me, a moment I did want to highlight is the prologue. The beginning of the film is very easily just told like how the Samaritan and his nemesis formed, and that's played over really neat animation. It's not like groundbreaking animation, but it has a nice style to it. And I liked how they put the whole thing together in about a 2-minute, 3-minute clip, explained it, gave us a nice setup. And at that point I thought, you know what? I think this movie is going to be more fun than it actually ended up being. But at that point, 2 minutes into the movie, my hopes and my expectations actually rose a little bit because of that neat animated prologue.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. I'll give that to you. How about a quote?
My movie poster quote right on top would be, Samaritan should have stayed in retirement.
See, I disagree. I'm ready for a sequel. And my quote is, maybe Tommy Wiseau could be the villain in the sequel. Huh? You wouldn't watch that movie, Ryan.
Like I have something for Karate Kid. You have something for Tommy Wiseau.
Who doesn't? I mean, come on. How many jaws? All right. I would give this the rare quarter jaw and go ahead and say 1.75 jaws. This was fun. I mean, stupid, but fun.
I'm at 1.5 jaws. I'm not dusting off the quarter jaw. 1.5 jaws for Samaritan, but being on Amazon Prime, definitely not going to kill you to watch this one, especially if you've been listening to Cinema Jaw and you want to celebrate Slyvester Stallone like we've been doing. Give it a spin.
Agree.